Now, if this is your first introduction to a framework, you're going to see a lot of files here, a lot of scary things like middleware and controllers and exceptions, and all of these others, server, webpack. A little overwhelming, right? This is something I will remind you over and over. You do not need to learn all of this at once. Very likely, in your initial stage, you can ignore the middleware directory entirely, and you only have to reach for that once you find the situation that requires it, and then you learn that. And that's the way you learn this, piece by piece. And the same goes for the console directory. Very likely in the early stage, you can ignore this completely. Okay, but how do we just see something in the browser? That's always what I'm most interested in. Well, Laravel offers a serve command. So if we run PHP Artisan serve, you'll see that it boots up a local development server at this URL. Let's give it a try. There we go. Here's our splash page for Laravel. Now though, your next question might be, well, what is responsible for this? Let's come back to our editor. The first entry point I want you to take a look at is your routes folder and web. And here you'll see that we respond to every entry point. This says, register a route / meaning the home page of your site. If you had something like about, or you can even leave off the initial /. That means, well, if the user visits your website /about, what do we do? Let's bring it back a few clicks though. Now we're saying, if you visit the home page, I'm going to load a view called welcome. All right. Well, all of our views are located within the resources views directory, and you'll see welcome. But even more than that, you'll see welcome.blade. Blade, you're going to learn about a bit in the future, but it's Laravel's template engine, and it allows you to work with PHP in your views in a bit cleaner fashion. So you'll see here, we have some CSS. This is intended to be deleted, by the way, and a little bit of HTML. And you'll see here's the main Laravel entry. So let's change it to Laracasts. And if I come back and give it a refresh, there we go. So that means if we want, we could just replace this entirely with a simple HTML and then say hello world. And if we switch back and give it a refresh, there you go. And believe it or not, these two things will take you a long ways, especially when you're just trying to build a basic static website and get your feet wet with Laravel. So once again, you're going to go to your routes web file, or try to get in the habit, using your editor of choice, of just going there instantly. So you'll often see me in Sublime Text do Command P, and I will type RWEB. Sublime has what we call fuzzy matching. So R stands for routes, and then WEB, of course, is the file name. So all I have to do is type that, and it instantly takes me there. And it's a lot quicker than going to the routes directory, clicking on web, right? Instead, Command P, RWEB. Done. So you'll see me do that quite a bit. And the same will be true for your views. If I want to go to the welcome view, I can type views or v/welcome. And now we're there. So whatever editor you use, figure out what that shortcut is and try to work that into your muscle memory. Anyways, you will define a route. So why don't we do one together? Route get about. And we have two options here in Laravel. We can reference what we call a closure, and think of that as an inline function where you do all of the handling of the route inline. However, you can also reference a controller. So maybe you have a pages controller, and if we want to trigger an about method, yeah, we could do that as well. But we'll review all of that stuff in due time. So for now, why don't we just do the same thing here? Let's return an about page. Now, you'll see that when I type about, the actual file name, well, we don't have one here, but in the case of welcome, it is welcome.blade.php. But just remember, there's no reason to type this out over and over, so Laravel lets you type just the initial prefix. Okay, so why don't we grab this? And for now, I'm just going to duplicate the HTML, but of course there are ways to reuse your wrapping code. New file, paste it in, save it as about.blade.php, and now we'll say about us. Okay, great. So you've registered a new route for /about, and again, the / is optional. When a user hits that route, we load an about page that renders this. So let's switch back and we'll visit /about, and there we go. Now we're on the about page. Okay, so now that you've learned how to use the PHP Artisan serve command, and by the way, I just hit Control-C to exit out of that. In the next video, we'll take a short break from the code itself so that I can demonstrate something called Laravel Valet to you. And you're going to love that as well. And here's the great thing about Laravel. There is this huge ecosystem that has been perfectly crafted to make everything as easy as possible for you. Stay tuned.